Matthew Wyman now, who's a senior fellow at Keele University. He joins us live from Keele in the UK. Matthew, thanks for being with us. So what the president of Ukraine has warned that as ugly as we have seen this battle so far, I mean, this war has displaced 1 in every 4 people in Ukraine. The fight for the Donbass could be even uglier. He's told Ukraine to brace for this.
Yeah, well, the news does seem to be getting worse every day, doesn't it, in terms of the level of atrocities that the Russian armed forces are prepared to commit against civilians. And this does seem to be part of the tactic in terms of how the Russians want to exert control over areas that they've militarily occupied. Basically, the strategy seems to be to terrorize the population into submission.
So potentially, this could be a long fight there. And also, I wanted to ask you, when Russia started operating in these areas, you know, back in 2014, 2015, and when they had this referendum that Russia claims people voted for overwhelmingly to join Russia, of course, the international community sees that much differently. They have a lot of skepticism on those referenda that took place. Is the Donbass fundamentally a different place now in terms of who's still left that supports those areas still being a part of Ukraine?
Well, we don't know in the sense that we haven't had any reliable information. There's no way to assess what public opinion actually is in the Russian-occupied bits of Ukraine. That is the bits of Donetsk and Luhansk that have been occupied since 2014. But the view is that, if anything, Russian occupation has hardened the views even of Russian-speaking inhabitants of the Donbass, that they want to be part of a free Ukraine and not part of the Russian Federation. And certainly the referendums were entirely falsified. There's no. The best example, of course, is the referendum that was held in Crimea rather than the referendum in Donbass, when the residents were presented with 2 options, which is an independent Crimea or Crimea joining the Russian Federation, but they weren't even presented with an option of the status quo. And then the idea that 96% of the population supported it is clearly falsified. This has been the Russian tactic all the way.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remind people of this. Those are great points. Okay, so it has been confusing, though, because over the past several years, when you would talk to Western leaders about Crimea and even about the Donbass, they would say, okay, well, those areas are gone. You know, they're never coming back to Ukraine. And you've heard from the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. At times, he seems to be saying that those regions are negotiable. Let's have peace now and talk about those later. And then he'll say Ukraine refuses to cede any territory to Russia. What do you make of this now? Is Ukraine going to fight for even Crimea to return to Ukraine? Now, I'm not saying that it ever officially left, but is Ukraine likely to now be even more adamant that all of that territory is Ukrainian?
Well, if you're a Ukrainian politician, how can you possibly put your people in the position of saying, I'm sorry, we've got to abandon some of you to live under the rule of the people who've been killing civilians in Bucha? It's just politically impossible. Zelensky did say that he accepted that if they tried to reoccupy Crimea, this would cause World War III. And I assume he was referring to the fact that, as the Russians claim it as part of their territories, that, as it were, an attack on their territories would lead to the use of nuclear weapons in self-defense. So he seemed to be saying that pragmatically it wasn't possible to reoccupy Crimea, but it seems to me that the pressures on Zelensky to continue to fight to protect those bits of Donbass that are still held by Ukraine and to, if possible, recapture the occupied territories is going to be immense.
Got it. All right, Matthew Wyman, we so appreciate your insights.
Thank you.